Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of Robert Dean Hall and Emmett Corrigan? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I'll put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. This case primarily involves four people: Robert and Candy Hall, and Emmett and Ashley Corrigan. Robert and Candy Hall married in 1994 and had two children. Robert went by the name Rob. In 2005, the family moved from California to Boise, Idaho. Rob worked in the IT department at a sheriff's office. Candy worked for a law firm as a paralegal. Emmett and Ashley Corrigan married in 2004 after meeting at Utah State University. They went on to have 5 children, with their last child being born in 2011. The family moved to Boise, Idaho, after Emmett finished law school. Emmett worked in bankruptcy law. In September of 2010, Emmett Corrigan met Candy Hall. They were introduced by a mutual friend. Candy was looking for a job as a paralegal after resigning from her last position. Emmett was getting ready to start a part-time criminal defense law practice in addition to his job in bankruptcy law. It seemed like a good fit. Candy wanted a job and Emmett wanted an employee. Unfortunately, Emmett and Candy felt as though they were compatible in other ways as well. They were extremely attracted to each other. 2 weeks after meeting, the couple started having sex. In November 2010, Emmett hired Candy after passing the bar exam and opening his part-time law practice. Their sexual relationship continued. Sometimes they even conducted due diligence in the law office. Emmett's wife, Ashley, who was pregnant with her 5th child at this time, became suspicious that her husband was having a Candy crush. Ashley wanted to save their marriage. She went to a marriage counselor a few times, but Emmett refused to go with her. He claimed his schedule would not permit it. Within a few months, Candy's husband, Rob, noticed that Candy was becoming distant from him. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On March 11, 2011, Candy left work at about 6 p.m. After arriving home, she found her husband, Rob, in the garage packing boxes. Rob told Candy that he had enough of her non-responsive behavior. During the course of this conversation, Candy admitted that she was having an affair with an attorney, but she told Rob that the attorney was in Oregon. Around the same time, Emmett left work and also found a conflict when he arrived home. His wife, Ashley, confronted him about their marital problems, and Emmett became angry. At some point, he spoke to Candy on the phone and told her that he would meet her in the parking lot of a Walgreens drugstore in Meridian, Idaho. Emmett told his wife that he had to go pick up a prescription. She asked him to stay so they could work things out, but he refused and left the home. Not long after 9 p.m., Candy parked her vehicle in the Walgreens parking lot and entered Emmett's pickup truck. The couple drove away from the parking lot. Emmett stopped for fuel and drove around for a while. Eventually, he parked in a neighborhood that was under construction. The couple had sex for the second time that day. Candy's older daughter called her wondering where she was. She also called her father, Rob, and told him that she noticed that Candy's car was at the Walgreens. Candy received a call from Rob as Emmett was driving back to the Walgreens parking lot. According to Candy, Emmett grabbed her phone and asked Rob, "What's up, Chief?" Candy could only hear Emmett's side of the telephone conversation. Emmett said to Rob, quote, "Yeah, we're talking about life. Have you got a problem with that?" unquote. Rob apparently responded, and Emmett said to him, quote, "Yeah, I'm going to crack your blank head. Just wait there. We'll be right there," unquote. Candy described Emmett's tone as derisive, challenging, derogatory, and threatening. Emmett and Candy arrived back at the Walgreens parking lot just after 10 p.m. to find Rob waiting in his pickup truck. Emmett and Candy exited the pickup truck and Rob exited his. Rob was carrying a semi-automatic pistol chambered in .380 ACP, in the pocket of his hoodie. He had removed it from a holster and left the holster in his truck. Candy has offered multiple stories about what happened next. Here's the story she gave in court about the confrontation between Emmett and Rob. Emmett was leaning against his pickup truck with his arms crossed. Rob walked over to where Emmett and Candy were standing, but didn't get too close. Rob asked, "What's going on?" Emmett responded, "She doesn't want to be with you." Rob looked at Emmett and asked, "She wants to be with you?" Emmett then insulted Rob by suggesting that he made more money than Rob did. He tried to encourage Rob to engage in physical combat. Emmett ended his insults by repeating, "She doesn't want to be with you." Rob pointed out how Candy had children and how Emmett's wife just had a baby. At this point, Emmett lunged forward and pushed Rob in the chest with both hands. Candy stepped between them and told Emmett to get in his pickup truck. She told Rob that they had to leave because their daughter called. Candy started walking toward her vehicle when she heard a scuffle on the ground behind her, followed by gunfire. She indicated that there was one gunshot, followed by a pause, then two gunshots. When she turned around, she saw that Rob had a pistol in his right hand, and there was blood running down his face. He collapsed and dropped the pistol. Candy also saw Emmett lying on the ground. She ran over to Rob, picked up the pistol, and threw it about 50 feet. The police were notified by witnesses. When they arrived, they found that Emmett had been shot twice, one time in the head and one time in the chest. He did not survive. Rob had a grazing wound on the top left side of his head. According to a defense expert, this caused a traumatic brain injury and led to amnesia. Rob told the police that he and Emmett fought and the gun fell out of his pocket. Emmett picked up the gun and shot him. He claimed that he did not remember shooting Emmett. Rob was charged with first-degree murder and went to trial in 2012. On October 25 of that year, he was convicted of second-degree murder. Rob was sentenced to 30 years in prison, eligible for parole after 17 and a half years. He can be released as early as August 2028. Candy ended up having her own legal problems, unrelated to Emmett's death. She was arrested 2 months after the shooting and charged in connection with stealing $32,500 from a lawyer she worked for in 2010. She pleaded guilty to grand theft and was sentenced to 2 to 14 years in prison. She was placed in a program that allowed her to be released from prison early. Candy was released in 2014 after serving only 18 months. Now moving to my analysis. Robert Dean Hall maintains his innocence. His attorneys argued that Rob acted in self-defense. The state's theory of the crime is that Rob went to Walgreens with the intent to murder his wife's lover, Emmett. The jury did not find that there was intent. However, by convicting him of second-degree murder, they clearly rejected the idea of self-defense as well. This brings me to the question, was Rob actually guilty of murder? Let's take a look at the evidence, both for and against the idea that he was guilty, starting with the inculpatory factors. Rob knew that his wife was having an affair with Emmett, despite her attempt to mislead him by talking about an attorney in Oregon. On the seat of Rob's pickup truck, he had emails that he printed between Candy and Emmett, which clearly indicated infidelity. After Rob arrived at the Walgreens, he went inside the store. He didn't purchase anything. He appeared to be looking for Candy. After exiting the store, he moved his pickup truck so that he could see the entrance to the parking lot, as if he was waiting for someone. Rob had a pistol in his pocket, but the holster was in his truck. Even though gunshot residue was found on the hands of Rob, Emmett, and Candy, investigators determined that Rob fired all 3 shots. If Emmett attacked Rob, picked up the gun after it fell out of Rob's pocket, and shot Rob in the head, how did Rob get the gun back to shoot Emmett? Did Emmett just give the gun back to Rob? So he shot Rob in the head and then held the gun out to Rob, saying, "Sorry about that, here's your gun back." Much of the information about Emmett's aggressiveness toward Rob came from Candy, who was an unreliable witness at best. She changed her story and had engaged in criminal activity unrelated to the shooting. Candy had a motive to make it seem as though her husband acted in self-defense. She wanted to preserve her relationship with Rob. A witness to the shooting heard 2 gunshots, followed by a pause, then a 3rd gunshot. Candy originally stated this as well. This makes it seem as though Rob shot Emmett twice before delivering the grazing wound to himself. Moving to the exculpatory factors, Emmett and Candy were having a brazen affair, which gave Emmett a motive to harm Rob. Emmett wanted Rob out of the picture. Before even meeting Rob, Emmett would belittle him to Candy. He pressured Candy to separate from Rob. Candy did not want to do that. She wanted to stay with Rob while enjoying some time with Emmett. Throughout the affair, Emmett became increasingly aggressive and controlling. According to Candy, Emmett showed up at her house in the middle of February 2011. He spoke with Rob outside the house as she watched. Emmett had a bizarre, corny, and disturbing habit of shuffling his feet like a bull when he was upset or aggravated. Candy said that she observed this shuffling behavior during that conversation with Rob. This makes it seem as though Emmett was being aggressive. Rob looked as though he was defeated when he returned to the house. In addition to Candy's account of this confrontation, Emmett made posts on social media consistent with the idea that he was looking to fight with Rob during that encounter. On February 25, 2011, Emmett posted, quote, "Nothing better than having someone try and call you out, and when it comes go time, they end up blanking their pants and not wanting any part of what they started," unquote. Someone responded to the post saying that something like that happened to them on that night. Emmett replied, quote, "Yeah, bro, mine happened last week. Apparently they talk smack in California. Here in Idaho, talk is cheap. Throwing down settles it once and for all," unquote. On March 10, 2011, Emmett posted about how it was sad seeing people get manipulated by those who cheat. This seems ironic considering his behavior. Emmett received a response from someone who said, quote, "People like that need a serious blank kicking," unquote. Emmett replied, quote, "I would kick their blank, but they are too scared to throw down. LOL. Next time I'll film it for ya," unquote. Emmett never specified who he was talking about in these posts, but clearly it was Rob. Emmett told an acquaintance he would have no problem hurting Rob. On the day of the shooting, when Emmett was arguing with his wife Ashley, she mentioned to him that she had been talking about their marriage problems with her brother and sister. Emmett yelled, quote, "I could kill all of you," unquote. After Candy did not respond to some of Emmett's text messages, he texted her sister and said that he was ready to drive over and beat Rob's blank. According to Candy, Emmett spoke to Rob on the phone not long before the shooting and threatened to physically harm Rob. Emmett had amphetamines and illicit steroids in his system when he died. In addition to factors indicating Emmett was aggressive, there are factors supporting the idea that Rob was passive. When Candy left to meet Emmett at the Walgreens parking lot, Rob went to visit a friend of his. He talked about his suspicions that Candy was having an affair with Emmett, but never indicated any intent of causing harm to anyone. Rob didn't make any negative statements about Emmett. He told his friend that he was thinking about writing a letter to Emmett's wife, Ashley. When Rob's daughter called him and told him that Candy's car was at the Walgreens, Rob did not appear to be upset. Given the evidence present at the shooting scene, it is possible that Emmett was the aggressor. For example, he had fresh abrasions on the knuckles of his left hand. Candy claimed that Emmett pushed Rob with 2 hands. Candy said that she heard a scuffle before the gunshots. Maybe Emmett attacked Rob, and Rob simply defended himself with his firearm. In addition to the witness who heard 2 gunshots, a pause, then 1 gunshot, there was another witness who heard 1 gunshot, a pause, then 2 gunshots. This second gunshot pattern is consistent with the idea that Rob acted in self-defense. Emmett shot him once, and Rob shot Emmett twice. As far as Rob's gun being removed from the holster, perhaps he put the gun in his pocket because Emmett was a dangerous, impulsive, and aggressive individual who had repeatedly threatened him. When considering all the evidence, do I think that Rob is guilty of murder? I think he is guilty in reality, but I do not think he is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. It is plausible that Emmett attacked Rob, and Rob defended himself. Rob could have wounded himself with his own gun for any number of reasons. For example, maybe he did it because he was upset about the affair, or because he thought no one would believe that he had acted in self-defense. As I mentioned, I do believe that Rob Hall was guilty in reality. Here's what I think happened in this case. This is just a theory, my opinion. Emmett and Candy were not subtle about their relationship. Emmett even told 2 of his clients that he was having an affair with Candy. The couple felt as though they had complete immunity. They could get away with anything unharmed. They were intoxicated by the fiery passion of their newfound romance. Emmett was immature, aggressive, irresponsible, impulsive, controlling, grandiose, sensation-seeking, and had a pronounced lack of insight. He represented himself as a tough guy and thought that he could intimidate Rob to get him out of the picture. In February 2011, he threatened Rob with physical harm. Rob did not feel physically strong enough to defeat Emmett in hand-to-hand combat, but Candy had given Rob a pistol. In March 2011, when Rob's daughter saw Candy's unoccupied vehicle in the Walgreens parking lot, Rob called Candy only to have Emmett grab the phone and threaten him. Rob decided that enough was enough. He went to the Walgreens to have a confrontation with Emmett. Rob was willing and prepared to kill, but he was still open to the idea of walking away if Emmett backed down. During the argument in the parking lot, Emmett deployed a weapon of verbal insult and was acting as immature as a baby. Rob produced a superior weapon and ended the confrontation. One could argue that Rob went there to take Candy from a baby, but ended up taking a baby from Candy. Emmett was overconfident in his ability to intimidate Rob. In a situation where Emmett had cheated, he incorrectly assumed that Rob would play by the rules. Ultimately, Emmett underestimated the determination of the man he offended. Emmett's level of arrogance and lack of insight led to his own lethal version of double jeopardy. Those are my thoughts in the case of Emmett Corrigan and Robert Dean Hall. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.